Hey there, this is Chris Prochaska, and welcome to this week's newsletter. I'm doing it via video this week instead of writing. I've got blisters on my fingers, and so from all the writing I've been doing to hurry up and finish up my book, and so this week I just felt like speaking instead of writing. And what I want to talk to you about is the third aspect of the inner voice. So, just to recap, the first week we talked about V, which is vision, which is not just about your big long term vision that you have, but how do you see yourself relative to that vision? In other words, how do you see yourself internally, and how do you see the world? And this is all of these things are on the align set map that I talk about in my book, but it's really about really noticing how are you interacting with your world, and a lot of it has to do with your beliefs, and also how you literally are seeing yourself and seeing the world. The second aspect is ownership. So I wrote about that last week, really owning not just your junk, the shadow parts of yourself, but also owning your genius. And more importantly, in the context of this, is really owning your dream, owning your goal, owning your vision. It was yours to begin with, and when you own it, immediately what happens is that there will be, oh, those little voices will come up. And your inner voice is there all the way helping you. But those little voices can get really loud. And remember, they're the voices of fear, of doubt, shame, guilt, criticism, judgment, all of that, right? So this week I want to talk to you about influence, which is the third letter in the voice aspect. The last two are C, choice, and E, embodiment. So watch for those in the next couple weeks. But let's talk briefly about I, influence. And the I influence is really, again, what are you letting influence you internally? In other words, are you listening to the little voices of fear, doubt, shame, guilt, criticism, judgment? Or are you listening to your inner voice? So, influence is internal, and then influence is also external. What are you or who are you listening to in the world that's telling you, you can't do this, you can't do that, it's, that's never going to work, or this is how you need to do it, or what are you thinking, or who do you think you are, all of that, right? So you could be hearing those voices in your head, but you could be hearing them out in the world too, and the people around you. So what happens is that one of the things, I talk a lot about communication because those little voices, the inner voice, all of that really affects our communication, not just, in our own head. That's why I talk about being a thought leader in your own head, but also in the world, in your relationships, but also on more of a meta level, which is, with the universe and manifesting. So many of you know, I'll give you a quick example. Many of you know that we're moving, and we're moving our little family, not just, down the street or to another little town in the state. We're moving to another state. And this is a huge dream for my husband and I. It's something we've been thinking about for years. It is a goal and a vision that I've had for over a decade, and him as well. And so we finally came to the realization that this is the time for us to do this, for many, many reasons. And immediately, each one of us has had the experience, and I'll speak more for myself, but we've both had the experience of the little voices coming up and, kind of derailing us or wanting to derail us. And for me, it was the big sty that was in my eye. It actually took almost 6 weeks for that sucker to go away. Talk about not really wanting to see or own my vision, and really what was blocking my vision. But as soon as I started owning that and watching the influence of the thoughts in my head, that's when I really started to go away, and taking care of it, the physical aspect of it too, the physical manifestation of it. The other thing, though, that shows up, so that's the internal influence. But the other thing that shows up, and I teach people this, is that we're validation seeking missiles. So, what that means is that when you have some sort of fear, subconscious belief going on, you will find evidence for it in your world. And oftentimes, the evidence will show up through other people. In fact, most of the time, it will show up through other people. And it will show up in ways like this. Uh, why are you doing that? Or what are you thinking? That's not a good idea. You're not making good choices. Um, that's never going to work. I met someone who moved there or did this or did that and they didn't like it, or it's too expensive, or it's, what about the kids, or whatever it is for you. And the thing is that oftentimes they're coming from their little voices and they're matching and resonating with our little voices. The fears that we have inside us are being mirrored back to us through other people. And I explain this more in my book, but just think about it this way, that whatever you're thinking and feeling inside that's what you're going to hear and find evidence for outside. And that's why it becomes so important to choose the influence that you're going to have. Are you and to be able to discern which voices are you listening to? Are you listening to your inner voice? Are you listening to your heart? Are you really deeply connected with that and staying focused on that? Or are you getting derailed by the fear? Are you getting derailed by any other feelings of criticism or judgment or shame or guilt, whatever that is? Usually it's just, we'll call it just fear. And the way you can tell is that if people are showing up in your world and they're saying a lot of things that are very negative, just observe that, just notice that, and see how you feel when they say what they say. And that will tell you a lot about what you're really thinking and feeling internally. Um, Again, this is all subconscious. It's not that we're choosing this to happen consciously, it's that they're showing up. So watch what's influencing you. And the other thing is that you get to make a decision when people show up and there's naysayers or they're saying negative things. In that moment, if it doesn't feel good to you, you can say, I don't choose to believe that anymore. No, thank you. And you get to decide in that moment, am I going to let them influence me? Am I going to let them influence my decision? And also just recognize that as you shift that, as you get clearer in yourself and your inner voice and living from your heart, that you're influencing the world around you too, because you're going to speak in a different way. You're going to speak from a place of, this is what we're doing. This is where I'm going. This is what I believe. This is what I'm about. Are you with me? Come on. But if you're coming from fear, it's going to sound a lot different, and people will resonate with that. You'll be influencing your world. You'll be finding evidence for why you should be afraid or feeling afraid, and that sucks. It's no fun. Okay? So, influence your world by choosing to listen to your inner voice. And when other people come in and they naysay and they try to derail you or tell you that what you want or is not possible or you can't do it that way or whatever, you simply thank them and say, okay, is there some piece of that is true? And everything else, let it go. Everything else, let it go. Always come back to your heart. Okay? So watch what you're influenced by internally in your own head, and watch who you're letting influence you out in the world, and choose to be influential starting with your heart, and you'll see very different results in your world. Okay, until next time, have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next week when we talk about choice. This is such a powerful conversation. Take care. Bye.